Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here to talk about graduate school and graduate school admissions. Whether you are a junior in college and you are preparing to apply this coming cycle as a senior, whether you're just kind of interested in how the process works, whether you're considering a career change or applying to take that next step in your career. This is where you want to be. And I'm so happy that you're here. This year has been really exciting. We've really expanded our grad offerings and we've been really successful across the board. And I just want to share some of the tips that I share with the students that I'm working with and have worked with this past cycle. Um, I'm Carley Nuzzo, and I am the Director of Graduate Admissions and Undergraduate Mentorship at ESM Prep, which is a Stravos company. So whether you're here through ESM or one of our other companies, welcome, and I'd be happy to speak with you no matter how you got here. So I'm happy you're here. Okay, so today we are going to go quickly through graduate admissions trends, and then we're going to go to my four main points to consider when you're considering graduate school. And then we will go through different types of programs, but like I said, especially this past year, I've worked with students in applying to many different types of programs. So even if I don't go over them, the specific program that you're looking for today, that's kind of the fun thing about graduate school is there are so many options and so many different avenues that you can take and different specializations. And that can make it more confusing. So I'm also here to help you through that as well. And then the value of a graduate degree. Okay, so first, the rise of graduate enrollment. This has been a trend for the past decade. Demand for graduate programs has steadily grown. We expect this to continue. Notable increases in STEM degrees, especially technology, data science, healthcare, and business analytics. This is also driven by employers seeking specialized skills and advanced degrees from their applicants. COVID accelerated a lot of patterns that we were already seeing, including making standardized tests like the GRE and the GMAT optional or eliminating them as requirements for admission in totality. That said, depending on the program that you're applying to, they could very well still be required. So again, that's something that you need to consider, and I'll talk about that when we talk about different degrees going forward. But also based on your individual profile, it might strongly benefit your application to take these tests, even if they're optional. Online learning options have expanded due to COVID, and we're already trending that way. But graduate school as a pathway to career changes has also increased manyfold. So that ties into the next point is the interdisciplinary and professional focus. So there has been an increased focus on interdisciplinary study that crosses multiple traditional subjects. So tech, business, public health and social work, data science, economics, even increased dual degree programs, centers that bridge those and encourage collaboration across them. And really, this reflects a broader industry trend toward cross-functional skills and that you would be able to show that you can do that as a job applicant. Additionally, these are marketed as ideal for career changers. Perhaps you have a specialization in one area and you want the other and you want a way to bridge those two. It's also been part of the trend that these programs are focusing on practical experience in addition to academia. So generally, we're seeing a lot of that trend in master's programs, but actually we're seeing that in doctoral programs as well. So some of these doctoral programs do have more of a tangible industry focus. And if that is your goal, then that should be something that you're looking for in the programs that you're applying for. So again, it varies drastically program by program. And sometimes it can be hard to find what you're looking for. Um, but these are very important for choosing your programs. I already mentioned the dual degree programs. But if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, so this is what I was excited to get to. These are kind of like my 4 points, my 4 pillars, if you will. So 4 points when you're considering applying to graduate school. First is that all of these things should align with your goals. So timing, requirements, narrative is probably my biggest, like I'm going to star the narrative point and objectives. So timing, where are you in your trajectory? Are you a junior in college? Are you a sophomore in college? Are you 5 years out of undergrad? Have you done a master's already? Where are you in your trajectory? Where are you in your career path? Where are you in your academic experience? That's going to be point one. What is required to then be a competitive applicant for the programs that you're applying to? So we'll kind of go into this a little bit too when we're talking about master's versus doctorate, or a 2+2 type of program with MBAs versus full-time traditional MBA. What's required to be a competitive applicant? And where do you want to be after you graduate? So again, are you applying to a master's program to be more competitive for a doctorate program? Are you wanting to be certified? So that's something in very specific industries. You have to make sure that you have accreditation, and you'll be able to practice if practicing is your goal. You want to make sure that the programs that you're applying for align with where you want to be upon graduation. And that you as a candidate align with what they're looking for in an applicant. Okay, next is requirements. So what are the requirements for your application? This varies drastically by degree. Again, you're going to hear me say that a lot. There's a lot of variability in graduate school. That said, most programs have a statement of purpose of some kind. That's not true across the board. Some programs have a couple of small essays instead. So essays will be, for most programs, are included. Transcripts for for all programs will be included. The CV in most cases, supplemental essays in some. In others, you will be required job experience. In others, you might be required, and that might vary based on programs, again, how long you need experience. There's also activities. That include like extracurricular or professional development. These are all things that should be considered in before you pick programs to apply to. What are the requirements for your degree? So what will you actually be doing in your degree program? If you hate research and you want something that is more focused on preparing you for industry, maybe you should consider, or not maybe, you should definitely consider that when you're choosing programs. Maybe you choose programs that, instead of requiring a thesis, have an option to do a project or an immersive internship or something to that effect, or even just additional coursework. What are your requirements for your career? So again, I kind of touched on this already. Will your degree that you're applying for be what you need to do what you want to take that next step in your career? If not, are you okay with taking an additional step? Is this the program for you? Okay, narrative. I starred this one already for you. Narrative. What is your story? Okay, this is different than undergrad though, because it needs to be in the context of your degree and of your interest. So What have you done that shows a continued, sustained interest and experience to different degrees, to different degrees in your degree, in your field? So this is really important to develop is a big like why it is that you want to do what you want to do and why you're prepared to do it. Um, and showing them that you're prepared to do it. So, how are you already showing that you can think like a graduate student, that you can think like a lawyer, that you could think like um, a scientist or software engineer? Um, how does your experience then match their program? So again, this kind of goes back to um, industry focus versus research focus. What have you done? It could also be, um, what do they offer? Do they have special institutes? Do they have special partnerships? Do they have a specialization that aligns with your specific interests? How does this particular program directly tie to what you've done already that you will be prepared to give and contribute to this program? And then the reverse of that is then how does their program especially set you up for your goals? So if you have a goal to go into um, biotech venture capital, what do they have at their program that will help you on your way to doing that? And then the additional information section. So this might not be necessarily relevant to everyone, but if there is something that you need to explain, so maybe your first year in college, you thought that grades in college didn't matter and you didn't do as great, but then your grades went up. This is something that we need to talk about in the additional information section. If you're maybe you don't have a major that aligns with the program, but you have a lot of experience, you took a bunch of coursework, this is something that we'd have to talk about in the additional information section. Maybe you have something weird that like study abroad didn't overlap with maybe you did like one semester study abroad and then you decided to stay and did a semester that wasn't through your college, and so your transcripts look a little wonky. This is something we have to discuss in additional information. Maybe something personal happened that affected your performance or your ability to engage in extracurriculars or leadership. This is something that we would want to discuss. And again, bring everything back to the narrative. So everything needs to tie into being able to support why you're a really great candidate for their program for this degree. Okay. And objectives. Um, aligning your goals with your objectives. So, what are your goals for a graduate study? So many students are just like, I want to get this degree. Okay, what do you want to do during graduate school? What is your goal heading into graduate school? What would you like to research? What skills would you like to gain? What is it that you are hoping to get out of this time? um, what are your short-term goals after graduation? So how do you hope that this program sets you up for that next step? What is the next step? What does that look like for you? Um, and then what are your big long-term goals? The better that you define all three of these things, the better sense that these admissions committees are going to get of who you are as a student, as a candidate, and as a future professional or academic, and how you're going to contribute to their community and contribute to their alumni network and making them look good in the future. So, all of these things are really important to define, to tie to your narrative, and to make a really solid case that timing, requirements, narrative, objectives all align, that right now is the perfect time, you're the perfect candidate, and they're the perfect program for you. Okay, that was a lot. So obviously, all of these things will vary based on you as an individual and your specific programs that you're applying to. So please reach out if you have any questions about how this relates to you and your goals. Okay, so now we're going to go into specific programs and admission. MBAs, again, like I said, I'm going to keep repeating this. All graduate programs vary drastically, just like undergraduate programs do. But the difference at the graduate level is that within the same university, even sometimes within the same school at a university, the acceptance rates by different across different programs can vary drastically as well. Whereas like you might get like a smidge of a difference for different majors at the undergraduate level, it is much more drastic at the graduate level. So that's something to consider as well. Average acceptance rates for top MBA programs around 13 to 16%. The top elite schools is greatly below 10, especially with the increases in applications. So especially for the MBAs, we'll get into their applications a little bit more. The applications are very in-depth for MBAs. So you want to make sure that you have a really strong, thorough application. Master's programs are the most variable. And acceptance rates then are very vastly and widely based on the field and the school and the specific program. There are immense different types of programs that you could be applying to, which is great. You could really find a program that is a really great fit for you, that you're a really great candidate for. And you can hedge your bets a little bit too. That said, it does depend on what you're looking to do and what your goals are. And master's applications vary drastically too, based on that, how much they require, if they require test scores. So most MBA programs will require test scores. Most master's programs within business schools, so even if they're not an MBA, if they're a master's in finance or something like that, will also require or at least like strongly prefer test scores. And then a lot of other master's programs, maybe in the humanities, will not. So it definitely depends, and it depends on what you're looking for. Doctorate programs, more competitive, but vary by department, vary by field. They do emphasize selectivity and focus on research fit, especially if you are planning to TA or get some kind of fellowship. These are going to be very competitive for a reason. And they want to make sure that your research aligns with someone that could be your advisor. And so this is all very important, again, back to that narrative. Again, test scores, it depends on the program. Again, there's lots of other doctoral programs that potentially would be more focused on industry or just going into practice. So PsyD programs in clinical psychology, maybe doctorate in nursing, different programs that have grown in demand and have expanded over the last few decades. Okay. Honing in on the MBA a little bit. So we're going to talk about the application requirements, program tiers, and different types of programs. I'm going to go through this relatively quickly because I'm not sure what degrees you're all here to hear about and are interested in. So MBAs, like I said, are relatively competitive compared to all graduate degrees. They're looking at your academic record. So your grades absolutely do matter. Again, we talked about that additional information section. There are things that we could do. Professional experience and involvement. This is really important. This goes back to your narrative. This is kind of like the activities that I talked about. They want to see a consistent narrative. They want to see leadership. They want to see a through line. And then your goals and fit. Again, you want to have really defined goals and really defined fit. Generally, the applications include essays, recommendations, test scores, and a resume. Based on the MBA programs that you're applying for, this could be 6 essays. This could be 1, 2. Recommendations, generally 2 or 3. Interviews for MBA programs, you'll get, if you make it to the interview round, it's usually about 2 months later. And I work with students to prep them for all of those. Again, you want that through line of that fit of that narrative. Test scores, in most cases, will be required still. Something new to flag, or relatively new, depending, is that the GRE is now accepted by almost all programs in addition to the GMAT, and most students do better on the GRE. And a resume that again aligns with that narrative. Differences in programs. So there's the top 10, academic excellence, leadership, global career impact. Generally looking for work experience, looking for high achieving individuals with a clear trajectory toward those leadership roles. We kind of talked about this already. Top 20 to 30, still focus on academic and professional performance, still want some career experience, and are looking for that leadership, but more so in a way that aligns with the program culture. So each of these different programs has a very specific niche, and that you fit within that. Top 30 to 40, or sorry, top 30 to 50, want solid candidates still, want some work experience still, but you could have diverse industries, career changes. This is all supported by these top 30 to 50, and they're looking for candidates with regional impact, and that's where a lot of their network is going to be as well. Okay. MBA, you have the special programs that I alluded to, which are deferred admissions MBAs, dual programs, and executive MBAs. If you are in college still and you're looking to apply to business school, these are the types of programs that you're going to be looking for, which are these deferred admissions MBAs. They're highly competitive, but definitely worthwhile. It saves you a spot in some cases, depending on how they're all set up a little bit differently. But essentially, in most cases, you secure your spot, you work for a couple years with their network assisting you, and then you enter the business program. Again, that it varies by program. We could go over it more if you'd like to talk about it. On to law school. Application requirements and program tiers. So application requirements, again, academic record, professional experience and involvement, strong personal narrative. Most schools now have a personal statement and a diversity statement. The personal statement aligns with the statement of purpose, which is a less personal statement. A diversity statement, letters of recommendations, test scores are incredibly important for law school, and a resume. Again, everything working toward that narrative. Why this school, why law, and an emphasis on that academic record. Okay. Key differences in programs. This really aligns with what we talked about with MBAs. So again, top 14, highly selective, high GPAs and LSAT scores, national recognition for placement, wanting to see that leadership quality in you and your commitment to law. Oops. Next tier, still strong, still wanting that narrative that includes work experience, community service, specialized backgrounds in different candidates. So this could be where that diversity statement comes in. And then tier 2 is where you're going to have, just like when we talked about in the MBAs, more of that regional focus, more of that regional network. Okay. Master's programs. Again, it's a little bit hard to speak to master's programs because they're so broad. But application requirements are relatively similar. You want an academic record, or a strong academic record, relevant professional and or research experience. Again, based on what type of program you're applying to, what their focus is, and what your goals are, will depend on whether or not you should have a focus on professional and or research experience and a strong personal narrative that ties it all together. Um, Program specific would be GRE, whether that's required, language proficiency exams if you're international. Some programs require portfolios. Again, wanting to tie that all in with your essays and everything in your CV and everything else. Interviews in some cases. We talked about the personal statement, diversity statement is required in some cases, supplemental essays are required in some cases, and community involvement and projects. That could be in addition to or in lieu of that professional and research experience, depending on your program. Okay, so all of that said, we come back to graduate degree value. So you're here, you're interested in this graduate degree. Why? The biggest thing is that you have an increased earning potential and job security. So the job market demand for skills. I'm so sorry. See, if you work with me though, you know I'll work with you through sickness and health, but sickness I'll stay on the other side of the screen, I promise. Sorry about that. Um, so increased earning potential and job security. The data has always been in that the more skills you have, the more degrees you have, the higher your earning potential is and your job security. Despite what the Wall Street Journal might say about, XYZ, if you're taking the scientific look, so if you're looking like a graduate student at this, and they say that this year has been a difficult year for hiring for graduate students, that needs to be compared to what it would be if, like, the null hypothesis, right? So that needs to be compared to those same types of candidates that don't have graduate degrees. And in each case, the graduate degree holders do have a higher earning potential and better job security. Networking and access to further opportunities. I have so many students who this is a really big factor in graduate school. Graduate schools really pride themselves on this, and finding a network that has the type of opportunities and has the resources where you want to grow your career is really important. And in other cases, there's increasingly valuable positions in emerging fields that are only taught at the graduate level. This is also true of many degrees that have specific accreditations, certifications, different things like that. You could only work in that field with a graduate degree. So all of that said, we have gone through a lot today, and I know I didn't get to probably everyone's specific interests and what you're looking for. But I love working with graduate students. I specialize in it. I always tell my husband that if I could continue getting degrees forever, I would. So this is kind of my way of doing that. I love thinking like a graduate student. I take my experience from my own years of graduate study and my experience of running application departments at UCLA, and applying for national, assisting students, well, doing it myself and assisting graduate students in applying for grants, specifically the National Science Foundation, and all of these years now of working with our graduate students into my work. I am very passionate about graduate school, and I'm happy to speak with you about your specific goals, what your narrative would be, what your timeline would look like, and what you need to have the most competitive and best application that you can possibly have and be the most prepared as possible. I don't know why I went all the way back, because I do want to end on my information. As I've said multiple times, I am happy to discuss your personal goals, please feel free to reach out to me at cnuzzo@esmprep.com. Um, I love talking graduate school, and I would be happy to share my insight and advice with you in your particular cases. So, that being said, thank you so much for your time today. And I hope we are able to speak soon. So, have a great day.